Hi, this is Sean Whalen, and you're listening to Neil Jones on Without Your Head Radio. Keep your head on, or don't.
Welcome to the station of decapitation without your head. I'm Nasty Neil, and I'm joined by Brett Dejager, the director of Bone Jangles. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. Sorry for the late start here, but hopefully everyone's still listening.
Or nobody is.
Playing. Well, yeah. You're right. That's probably true. But we're talking to each other, so that's cool.
Yeah, that's all that matters, I guess.
Yeah. If for people who don't know what Bone Jangles is, it's hard to explain, but can you explain it without, ruining the movie for people?
Yeah, so Bone Jangles is a horror comedy that officially released yesterday. Yeah, what's today?
Thursday, the 20th.
Yeah, so it just released recently, and it's a horror comedy. It's about a ragtag group of police officers that are transporting this unstoppable serial killer to a sanitarium for lockup, and they accidentally crash in this town of Argento that's cursed by this old witch. And every year on a certain day, the dead rise from their graves and kind of roam around. So they not only have to survive the zombies, but they also have to survive Bone Jangles because, he gets loose.
Yes. No, like you said, there's a lot going on in the movie, and I like that in this world, a lot of this stuff is already established. Like Bone Jangles is this known killer that can't be killed, but it's everyone already knows it. So it's it's a world where all these different horror things exist and people know about them.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of like an everyday occurrence. You're aware they're happening, and people just kind of go on with their lives, and it's just the world they live in. So
yeah. And that's established right away. You're listening to the radio, and the guy's just the supernatural killer, whatever friendly there is out, and it's not necessarily a big deal.
Yeah. It just kind of the way it worked out, and I'm glad people caught on to that right away and weren't like, well, why are there, why isn't the military there killing these zombies?
Right. And yeah, and if you watch it, I like slasher movies, I'm sure a lot of people listen to this, but this is a totally different way to to show one. Especially, and then you also have them with the zombies and the succubus, and there's all kinds of stuff going on.
Yeah, there is quite a bit. So hopefully people enjoyed it. I'm starting to hear a lot of feedback from people, and it's been overall pretty good. So
yeah. So, did you know the writer before the movie? How did you get involved?
Yeah, so Keith Melcher wrote it. Was the executive producer. I did not know him until I was brought on set, pre-production wise. So he had been working with Sean O'Connell at Labyrinth Films for a while, and they made a couple of projects. And I had worked with Sean O'Connell before, and so when Keith and Sean were working on Bone Jangles, they were in the script development phase, and they were looking for a director. And Sean knew that I was a huge horror fan, and I had just directed another movie, Legend of Cooley Moon, back in 2012. And so Sean's like, hey, I know this guy. He, a huge horror buff. Let's see if he would direct it. And they asked me, and it worked. So,
and now he also plays Bone Jangles, right?
Yeah, he did a lot of hats, but yeah, he also plays the title character, Bone Jangles.
Yeah. Was that always to be, or did you try to find someone else, or was it he wanted to play Bone Jangles?
Yeah, no, he wanted to be behind the scenes. He didn't want to play Bone Jangles. Well, it was never his intention. Mm-hmm. We were in talks with other known actors within the horror industry to play the role. And whenever we'd get close to securing somebody, schedules didn't work out, or we couldn't get there budget-wise. You know, they wanted too much money, more than we could afford. So we tried and tried and tried until we got to the point where we absolutely had to have somebody. And we're just like, hey, Keith, maybe you want to try to do it. And he's like, sure. You know, so last minute choice, but it worked out pretty well.
Yeah. Now, Keith, I imagine, must be a big guy in real life.
Keith is a bigger guy. He's fairly short, though, so we had to use some movie magic.
All right, well, it worked, because I assumed he was a big guy, which I thought was, you know, it's unusual in my mind to think of a writer as a big guy, so I was like, hey, it worked out. A writer happens to be a big, who wears a mask all the time, so it would totally work.
Yeah, he's a big teddy bear. He's one of the nicest guys I've ever met in my entire life. So I'm hoping that you know, Bone Jangles does well, and you know, he gets the recognition that he deserves as a writer. So
the mask itself is really cool. Who designed the mask?
The mask was done by Ben Gersh, and he was brought on literally the day before we began shooting. It's a really long story, but we had another individual, a practical effects artist that we had paid to do like a lot of animatronics and, you know, puppeteering and all this stuff. And nobody knows this story actually, but, well, I guess I'm going to tell it right now. So this will be the first time I ever told this. And, so we had this guy hired, to do it. We paid him a lot of money to do it. And a week before we started filming, his number is disconnected. And so we're like, well, that's weird. And then we find out his social media accounts were deactivated. And we're like, okay, this is really weird. And then all of a sudden, like, his apartment was empty. His apartment where he was living is empty. He disappeared, and I haven't heard from him since. So he took all of our, the mask, the Bone Jangles mask, everything, like, literally right before production.
Jeez, that's sorry to laugh, because I must have been, well, you know, what goes through your mind at the time, though? This guy totally skips town.
Yeah, because we had already, you know, we were already secured in, and we were ready to shoot, and we had to shoot because we had plane tickets for the cast. We had our lodging figured out, you know, that was already booked. We had everything ready to go, so we had to start. So Ben Gersh was a guy I knew in college, and he was just getting into practical effects, and this was one of his first projects. So he was literally, while we were filming the first week, he was designing the mask as we were filming. And so he was under a lot of pressure. We didn't give him a lot to work with, but he made do.
Mm-hmm. No, that's great. So, like, how much did that guy have made? Did he have, besides the mask, he had, like, other things made, I assume?
Yeah, so the intent was that he was making animatronics. And so we were going to go like the Evil Dead to Army of Darkness route, where we were having like the zombies were originally going to be like the old school, like skeleton, like Army of Darkness puppeteering. So we were planning on having some, you know, puppets and some animatronics. Like we had these crazy like dogs that were supposed to be animatronics. And originally we did have like this, our intent was to have this big tree, this like evil rape tree. It was referenced in the movie, but it was supposed to be this giant animatronic that we were going to be using. So this was all supposed to be done. And he had sent us pictures of progress and stuff, and then it just disappeared.
Wow. So, like, how much did you have money into this? I assume, like, were you guys out money?
Oh, yeah, we were thousands of dollars for sure.
Damn.
And when you don't have a lot of money to begin with, I mean, it stung for sure. It stung for sure.
Yeah. I actually have in my notes watching it was about I wrote vine rape because that's what I always call it, but I was happy to hear a reference to tree rape or vine rape because that's always, that's right up my alley.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the evil, literally we had all our major intent was to have like a huge animatronic evil rape tree, as referenced in the movie, which we had to cut right before we started filming. So,
So did that really just change a lot of the movie? Like besides, you know, a few of the things, did it kind of change the entire movie?
Yeah, it definitely changed our focus.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to focus more so on the storyline and cut and scale back on a lot of the things that we were really excited about. I mean, I think it turned out well the way it ended up. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
I'm very happy with the movie, but it changed the course of where we were originally intending to go. So I think, we just shifted, and everybody kind of went with the flow, and it worked out in the end.
Yeah.
But it's just something that who knows how the movie would have turned out had that not happened.
Mm-hmm. Now you can compare yourself to Jaws. How they had to cut back on a lot of the shark in the movie because they couldn't get the automated shark to work. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Jaws was absolutely fantastic.
Oh.
So, we'll see. Well, I think people will like it. I mean, it's it's a little bit of zombies here, a little bit of Bone Jangles here, and then for me, obviously I'm biased, but I thought the storyline. The more I watched the movie, the more I liked the actual storyline itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like the whole backstory of the town, which I always like that in a movie when there's like a whole like a legend, created for the movie. And it's kind of not that the movie's realistic, really, but it adds like a sense of realism to the movie, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it gives people a little bit of backstory so they can let their imaginations kind of continue on with their own plot, and people can add in what they feel or what their brains want to make sense of it. So I think that was a big piece of it. People have enough to work with that they can build onto it themselves and kind of be like, oh yeah, it makes sense in my brain this way.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever think of just like quitting when that happened, when he left?
It was definitely my wife was like, well, what are you going to do? You're filming next week. And we're like, I said, well, we'll make it work,
Yeah.
And so, and then the guy, Adam Lane, out of Dark Creations, ATX out of Texas, was designing the actual Bone Jangles wardrobe. And literally it was 4 days before we started filming, and he had called me up and said, hey, was going to ship off your wardrobe, but we were in the studio and it caught fire and it burned up. and like, he had been working on it for like months. And I'm like, oh, how much did it burn up? He's like, well, it caught on fire. We had to throw it out of the studio and stomped on it a little bit and got the flames out. And he thought it was trash, obviously. So he took a picture. I said, just send me a picture of it, what it looks like. So he sent me a picture, and it was like all charred, and like the legs, the overalls were all burned up and stuff. And I'm like, that looks awesome. Send me it. Let's shoot it. And literally, so my wife's like, oh my gosh, what are you gonna do? Like, we shoot in 4 days and it's all burned up. And I said, let's go for it. So they overnighted it, and it worked. So there was definitely pieces or nights when I was like, I'm gonna quit, but we had such a fantastic cast and crew, and our producer, Zeke Hansen, he was just like really, really supportive and was like, we can get through this, whatever you need, I'll make happen. And, so we just kind of just plowed through it, and it was great. I would not change it for the world.
Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed the movie. How did Alyssa Dowling get involved? Who plays the witch, the succubus?
Yeah, well, Alyssa obviously has been in an insane amount of movies, and her name is just, you think of horror and you think of her. And she was just a lady, a actress that I always wanted to work with. So I reached out to her, and we're like, hey, would you be interested in playing Rowena? Well, yeah, the witch or whatever. And she read the script, she liked it, and we agreed on money, and that's all she wrote. So yeah, it was great.
Yeah, she's really cool. I known her for a few years through the conventions, and she's always a really nice person. And she had me kicked off YouTube for 6 months, but Besides that, she's very nice. It was no fault of hers.
I mean, that's not funny, obviously.
Yeah. It was a video I filmed of her at a convention, and YouTube deemed it as pornography, and I was kicked off for a few months.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, it wasn't really even that bad. I'm not. You can watch way worse stuff, but.
Oh yeah, YouTube is kind of a hit or miss as far as like what are they going to enforce and whatnot.
Yeah, and of course Reggie Bannister, which I saw it, and it was a good review of the movie, but they did mention that Reggie has like a cameo, but I thought he had actually a vital part in the movie. I thought it was a great part of the movie, and I love that he's saying all the lines so serious, which really adds to the comedy of the movie to me.
Yeah, Reggie was fantastic to work with. And that was what I noted too, that he had delivered the lines like so serious, and he came so prepared, and he was like ready to kick ass, and yeah, he delivered them pretty spot on, and everybody loved him.
Yeah, and so how did he get involved, Reggie Bannister?
Yeah, so we had our idea was to litter Bojangles with enough cameos with known actors as we could, right? And it just happened to be, run out of time negotiating with actors and whatnot. And for Reggie, we used a casting agent to get him. And so our casting agent, we gave him a list of people that we were interested in to play the role of Edgar Sr., and Reggie was on the list. And so our casting agent contacted him and his, manager, and said, hey, these guys, making a movie. Are we interested in reading the script? Explain the movie. He read the part, really liked it from what I remember. And he's like, sure, that's great. And, before long, he was, we had him all wrapped up and we flew him into Sioux Falls, South Dakota, to shoot his scenes.
Yeah. Because I think even like the line, protect your wee winky boy, like, if you, even if you said that, like tongue in cheek, I think it'd be funny, but when he's saying it was like so dramatically, it's just, it's hilarious to me.
Yeah. He never did talk about like what he thought of his role. He just came, he just flew in, met him, and he delivered his lines, and he just kicked ass, and went out for a few drinks after we wrapped up his character. And then I talked to them a little bit here and there. That was the year they had the Phantasm reunion out in Texas Frightmare. So I went down there and got to see McGinn down there. He was scooping up ice cream at the party down there at Texas Frightmare.
Yeah, I was there that year too. So
really, we probably crossed paths and didn't know it.
Exactly. Which, by the way, I really liked Phantasm Ravager. It's the fifth one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I honestly think it was the best one besides the first one. I thought it was really cool. I know some people had some problems with it, but I really dug it. And I was happy that Reggie had a lot to do in the movie.
Yeah. No, that's great. He's doing so many projects still, and it's great. It's really great to see him still kicking ass on the big screen.
Mm-hmm. And the music at the beginning of the movie is pretty sweet. How did that come about?
Yeah. So that was a song that we didn't intend on using at first because we had access to it, and we just plugged it in just to see what we liked, and I loved it so much. I'm like, we got to pay whatever it costs to get this in my movie, because it totally reminds me, like a Johnny Cash and type rockabilly music. It just every time I hear it, it just gets my heart pumping. And our editor and director of photography, Sean O'Connell, found the music and worked it out where we were able to afford it and use it in our movie. So very, 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 very pleased with that.
Mm-hmm. When you're making a comedy horror, do you feel that some of the horror stuff still has to work, like on a horror level, for the movie to be funny?
I definitely think so.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't want to go too spoofy, like scary movie. You know, we didn't want it to go like that ridiculous.
Right.
At least I don't think we went that way.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted it to be like a play on, you know, kind of a spoof, over the top, kind of funny, but we still wanted elements where we were serious in what we tried to accomplish, but with a different flair. So I think it was like a hard to balance it, but it just kind of meshed together with, you know, everybody had great ideas, and I just, you know, it was definitely a team effort, but it was definitely hard to balance that. Like how over the top funny do we go, but we still want it to be like a horror movie as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think that when a horror comedy works, I really enjoy them. But sometimes if you just have the balance a little wrong, it you know, it can kind of fall apart. But
yeah, definitely. Like I kind of feel like, you know, Sharknado balances. You know, the first one is great. And I feel like, you know, they could cross the line at any point in time to being too, like, outrageous where people just kind of get turned off by it. You know what I mean? Like, where it just becomes too outrageous.
Mm-hmm. And I always like sound effects in the gore because I think that adds a lot to it. And you have, yours, some of them were almost like farting or poop noises when, like, heads were getting squished, which, and
I think that might be your imagination running a little wild.
Okay, maybe.
No, I don't think. I guess it could be. I wasn't there in the editing bay while they're plugging those in for the most part. Like, but I don't think that they did like any like Foley of like pooping or anything like that.
Or maybe it's just my personal noises when I'm in the restroom.
Yeah.
So maybe I should see a doctor.
Hey, that sounds familiar.
You said you weren't there when they put in the sounds, but I always wonder how they do get sounds for like for anything really, but for gore effects, like are they like pre-made sounds, or is someone like in a room, you know, smashing tomatoes or something?
Yeah, so like beating meat and stuff. Some of them are full. Some of it is fully where you're in a studio and you just kind of, you know, you set up your audio equipment and you hit a piece of watermelon with, you know, a knife or something to get that noise. Most of the time, though, if you're on a budget and you're on a time crunch, you can buy like catalogs of high-end sound effects. So it's a mixture of pre-purchased sound effects, and then they might be altered a little bit to match what we need. But some of them are created from scratch.
Yeah. You said the reaction's been mostly positive. Did you see the movie with an audience at any point in time?
Yeah, so we premiered the movie on Halloween night at an actual drive-in theater.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, and that was our initial like advanced screening, and it was well received there. So that was about, you know, we had about 300 people show up for that. And then I had a private screening party on Tuesday night when the movie was released, and with people that have never seen it. And I think, you know, the feedback was pretty good. It's not for everybody, you know, so I'm not kidding I'm not trying to shield myself from the bad reviews or by any means, because I know it's not for everybody. So I've got, you know, the only thing I don't read is like YouTube comments, because those are never good to read.
Yes. That's a good idea. Mm-hmm. Yeah, even just interviews. I have some comments where it says like, whoever likes this, it's not even just I interviewed the director of a Serbian film, and there's comments like asking him to be killed and asking for anyone who likes the movie to be killed. So it's very weird to read comments like that.
Yeah, that is really weird.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But there's always going to be those people out there.
Yeah. So what's it like though to watch a movie with your own movie with an audience? Is there a lot of pressure there?
Yeah, definitely. So like my first movie that I directed, The Legend of Cooley Moon, when we premiered that back in 2012, to a sold-out theater in my hometown. I went across the street to the bar, and I didn't even watch it. And then and then we had an after party or whatever, and then I talked about the movie and whatnot. This time for Bone Jangles, I was in a private booth up at the drive-in with like the cast and crew. Mm-hmm. So it was really cool, really exciting to hear to see their facial expressions as they watched it for the first time since they filmed it. Mm-hmm. And everybody was so proud of it. But yeah, it's pretty nerve-wracking because you pour your heart and soul into a project for a year or more, mm-hmm. and you live and breathe it, and you know going into it that people are going to hate it or people are going to love it, mm-hmm. and you don't know how people are going to react or what they're going to say. So it's kind of like prepare yourself for the worst, but then when people actually enjoy it and let you know, it's really cool. It's a cool feeling.
Yeah. Where is the drive-in? Because it seems like drive-ins are a thing of the past.
Yeah, so we premiered it in Laverne, Minnesota, my hometown. Mm-hmm. So they have it's far the southwest part of Minnesota you can get, and it's at the Laverne Drive-In. Phenomenal, beautiful drive-in theater that's been renovated. They have amazing screen, amazing venue there, and they're going strong. And so I grew up at that movie theater, and I try to go back as often as I can. But I live kind of far away from it now. But mm-hmm. that's where we premiered it at.
Yeah. Did you grow up going to the drive-in?
Oh yeah, definitely. They weren't. I mean, when I was growing up, obviously it was after the drive-ins were a huge thing. So they were dying or almost died completely off by the time I was old enough to go to a drive-in, but we still had ours in Laverne, and I went there, every Friday night or every Saturday night at the, during the summer. So,
I assume you were always a horror movie fan.
Yeah, definitely. Grew up watching horror movies. My mom got me started on cheesy sci-fi, 50s movies and horror movies, and her love for them kind of I picked that love for horror movies from her. So
yeah,
grew up loving Resident Evil. Playing video games growing up. The original Resident Evil and Silent Hill, and
Mm-hmm. Did she ever have a problem with you watching R-rated movies? Mine did, so it's not a big deal. So.
Yeah, I mean, if she did. She did a really good job moderating like what we watched. If it was like something super crazy, obviously she wouldn't let us watch it. But she, if I was around and she was around, and Tales from the Crypt was on, she would let us watch it together, mm-hmm. And then just have me like turn away if somebody was getting naked or something.
Right. All right. And now, is she still alive? Did she get to see your movie?
Yes, my mom is still kicking, and she got to come to the premiere at the drive-in, and yeah, she always texts me every day and just she's like, "Oh, I saw your movie on Redbox," and she's been super supportive of it.
Mm, that's pretty sweet. Did she like the movie?
Yeah. I think so, but I mean, she's my mom, so I don't know if I can actually. Trust her judgment.
Yeah, that'd be good just to put on the poster. I love it, Brett's mom.
Hey, that'd be kind of cool.
I like it. I would find it funny. Mike O'D here is a local filmmaker in Boston. He wants to know, what's the biggest change that you implemented in the running of a set from when you first started out?
Okay, so can you repeat that one more time? I didn't. It kind of cut out.
He says, what's the biggest change that you implemented in running a set from when you first started out, I guess, in filmmaking?
Oh, yeah. Definitely my biggest change is that not to have actors and extras sitting and waiting around as much as I did when I first started. You always say, okay, your call time is, 8 a.m. or 7 a.m. and we start filming at 7:30. It always takes a lot longer to set up lights and stuff when you have a small crew. So I kind of, learned that you don't get them on set until you absolutely are ready to shoot. So you kind of always, it's better for the crew to wait around than your cast. So that's probably the biggest thing I've learned and have changed in the way I run my sets, is that I would rather have the crew wait around, finish their getting set up and then wait and then have the cast. Because it's just, I've always worked with small crews and we're always doing multiple hats.
So this was your second feature. Did you make shorts before that?
Well, this is technically my third feature.
Okay,
it's the second feature that's actually been finished and released. My first feature we shot down in Phoenix, Arizona, back in 2006, I think. We shot it in 7 days, but it was never actually released. We finished filming it, but it was never released. That got me started, and I filled the time in between that with some short films too. So,
what was why wasn't that released?
To be honest, I have no clue. I have no clue.
Wow.
I don't know what happened to it. I honestly don't know what happened to it. I didn't have the rights to it. I produced it, but I was young, and I just didn't know what I was doing, and I don't think it was worthy of putting it out to the public. I think that's ultimately what happened. But it was a learning experience, and I got to know a lot of people.
So what's the legend of Cooley Moon?
Yeah, so The Legend of Cooley Moon is a movie that I wrote, directed, produced, edited, all on my own. And it's a kind of like a drama, horror, sci-fi movie. Filmed that in 2011. That was my first feature that I basically ran from pre-production all the way through the post-production and the release of the movie. So finished that and released it on Amazon a couple years back for a little bit, and then I pulled it, and now it's been sitting on my shelf for the last couple of years doing absolutely nothing. So I got to get that back out there. But I've been waiting for the right time. I
noticed there's a Killer Hillbilly movie, which I always enjoy. What is it about Killer Hillbillies that interests you?
I don't, I just don't, I guess maybe it's just coincidence that it happened. I think they make good villains, because they're not like too far-fetched, but they're interesting enough. They don't take a lot of like money or like practical effects to pull off.
Yeah, they're always fun. Yeah. I saw there was some criticism of the gay character in Bone Jangles, which I don't know what you think of that. Me personally, I think it's a little weird that that's picked out, since the whole movie is a lot of stuff about different stereotypes in horror movies. And why would one be somehow offensive when, really even just making fun of people being murdered isn't?
Yeah, it really caught us off guard with that one. Definitely caught us off guard that's, I'm sure there's other criticisms, but that's the biggest one that I've heard of. We wanted to, and that's why we went over the top with his character, because we didn't want it to be like borderline, offensive. Yeah. If we were going to go, we didn't want people to think that we're like being like subtly offensive. We wanted to make sure that people realized, hey, this is this black guy, over the top gay guy. And I actually know some of my friends are that over the top gay, and they enjoyed the character. But, it's not for everybody. And, so.
I had no problem. I personally found it funny. Mike O.D. here. But again, if someone has a right to be offended by anything. Mike O.D., what's your favorite focal length?
I think we probably a 50 millimeter. It's definitely the most versatile one that we had. We shot the movie with like literally one lens. We shot it on a red Epic at the time. So we shot the movie in 6K, and my favorite focal probably is a 50 millimeter.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any ideas for a sequel?
Yeah, so actually, Bojangles 2 and 3, the scripts are completely done, ready to go. We've been working on them for the past 2 years actually, since we wrapped up on Bojangles. Mm-hmm. So they're ready to go. They're ready to shoot. We're just kind of locked in money-wise until we see how well Bojangles is received. If people hate Bojangles, then we'll probably move on to something different. But if people like it and want to see more Bojangles, then we'll start on Bojangles 2.
Mm-hmm. Will we see will I be able to finally see the rape tree?
You never know. I've read the scripts, and I honestly fell in love with them, and they asked me to come back and direct the sequel and the third one. And our plan is to direct or to film them back to back. So, take a course of probably 3 months and just film Bojangles 2, and then go right into Bojangles 3 as well.
Mm-hmm. So, when did you finish filming Bojangles?
Yeah, I know people are I'm not supposed to say exactly when. We finished filming in 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
The majority of it, I should say. We finished filming it 3 years ago in July, end of July, and we went in the editing studio. We took about a year to edit. We finished it, and then we were like, something's missing. So then we added more scenes, and went back, filmed some more, and then integrated those into it. And so we finished, probably a year and a half ago, I should say. So it's been sitting, waiting for a right time to release it for about a year and a half, I suppose. But it takes a while to get the deliverables and quality control and everything, just as it needs to be.
Mm-hmm. And I saw you've got I guess you wrote a part in an anthology movie, 1031, that's coming out this year. If you can tell us anything about that.
Yeah, so 1031 with Rocky Gray's 1031. They were working on an anthology, and I had just directed a segment for PJ Starks. Well, he's working on one too. Zane and the guys out there for Cryptids. So I wrote and directed a segment for their horror anthology, Cryptids, and then that's when I met Rocky Gray, because he's doing the score on that. Mm-hmm. And we worked it out where I was able to write and direct a segment for his anthology, which was awesome. So those are both those segments are just wrapping up post-production, and they should be done here anytime.
Oh, very cool. It's an awesome poster art too for 1031.
Oh yeah, it's going to be fantastic. I've seen some of the stuff that the other directors have done, and if you love Halloween, you love that time of year, and you are a fan of anthologies, it's going to be a good one.
Yeah. I always have a soft spot for anthologies, and I'm glad that they've made a comeback the last few years.
Yeah, me too. I mean, they're I kind of feel like they're harking back to Creep Show and whatnot, and unfortunately with Romero passing, which is very sad. I'm hoping that anthologies kind of are here to stay for a bit.
Yeah. Now, since you brought that up, obviously, since you have zombies in the movie and your horror, what is your favorite Romero movie, and did you ever get to meet him?
Unfortunately, I did not get to meet Romero, which now I'm kicking myself in the face for, because he's been in a couple of convention appearances close by. And it's just one of those things where, like, I'll meet him at the next convention, or I'll meet him down the road, and you can't do that because you miss out on those opportunities. Obviously, Night of the Living Dead. I'm a huge Creep Show fan for sure. Everything he's done. It's all pretty good. So, but yeah, Creep Show obviously was probably my favorite.
Yeah, that's up there for me too. That's actually the first VHS tape my mom bought me, and I still have the clamshell case here. I have the
That's
movie
awesome.
too, but it's I wore it out because I watched it so much when I was a kid.
That's great.
Do you have a favorite Creep Show segment?
I Creep Show 2, obviously. I'm a huge fan of the crate underneath the stairs. I can't remember what that one's called. That one's probably my favorite.
Yeah, it's just called the crate.
the crate. That's what I thought. But I always get those two mixed up. But yeah, that's probably my favorite one.
Yeah, that one's pretty sweet. And then Father's Day. Actually, pretty much I think all of them in the first one are good, but I always like the crate the best.
Yeah.
So,
Father's Day one, that would be great.
Yeah. So when you're making the I guess they call them shorts for anthologies, what is that experience like as compared to making a feature? I
always to this day say that making a short film is harder than making a feature length. I really do. For some reason, they're harder to raise money for. Obviously, you can shoot them for cheaper, but they're harder to raise money for. They're harder to market, and which is why I think anthologies are coming back, because you can do short films, put them together, and then you'll have a feature length. And I think that's where the appeal is for. I really go into short films the same as I do feature lengths. Look at the script, obviously. I try to do all of the prop lists. I try to do all the wardrobe. I try to do all that myself, just because I'm kind of a control freak when it comes to like color palettes and everything. But they're a ton of fun. You don't sleep much because you usually don't have a lot of time to film them, and you just get in and you shoot for 3 days straight, and you wrap up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've always wondered that for shorts that aren't part of an anthology, because once they're shown at not a convention, but a festival or something, what happens to them? They just kind of disappear, because you couldn't sell 8 or 20-minute DVDs, so I don't really know what happens to them after.
Truly, people use them to learn. To learn the craft, the filmmaking craft, or they'll use them to try to gain interest or buzz to turn it into a feature length. Mm-hmm. I've seen that kind of bit, like a concept, like a proof of concept. I think that's probably the most popular way of reason why doing a short film. Yeah. Besides doing the anthology, but for me, I never saw the appeal of them. I'd much rather, if I'm going to watch a short film, I'd rather it be under 5 minutes or under 10 minutes, like on YouTube. Yeah. And it's free, and I just enjoy it, and then hopefully that's kind of like a marketing tool for a feature length.
Sure, yeah. Or just hey, this is what this guy can do. I'm going to go check out his other work.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, Night of the Slasher, there's a couple of fantastic short films out there that I'm so glad that people do, that whether they just love to do it or not. Maybe they don't have the budget or the general interest of turning into a feature, but a short film, they can be fun to do.
Yeah. Here we get a question. What films or directors have inspired or influenced you the most? Facebook.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I grew up watching the classic 80s horror films, obviously. So you have Carpenter, for one, huge influence of mine. But for Bone Jangles, in terms of Bone Jangles, I really like Steve Miner. Not a lot of people know him or his work. Maybe they do. I guess of the House and the House 2, the House franchise. I really the horror comedy. I for some reason those movies are just super inspiring for me, and I just love them to death. So Steve Miner is a great one. I'm a huge Eli Roth fan. I love what he's done for the genre. I loved the original Cabin Fever. It's probably what got me really, really excited about filmmaking when I was in college. So, I mean, I'm pretty eclectic. For me, if you put yourself out there and you take the time to make a movie, direct a movie, do whatever, do the audio or whatever, that's a monumental task and an accomplishment for anybody. So I try to respect that, regardless if the movie is good or not. I don't like to trash movies because a lot of people put their heart and soul into it, and it is what it is. So yeah, Carpenter probably is my biggest influence.
Mm-hmm. So is Bone Jangles on Redbox too, right?
Yeah, Bone Jangles is on Redbox nationwide.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really exciting. That came about kind of recently. They were like, "Oh yeah, Bone Jangles is gonna be on Redbox." And I was like, "Cool, that's awesome."
So how important is stuff like Redbox and video on demand for a movie maker on the independent level?
Yeah. If it doesn't, it really, this whole week right now is so monumentally important for Bone Jangles that if it's not well received, or if it kind of flames out in the next week or so, I think that might, it's just super important. It needs to do well on those markets to have any kind of legs. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, we basically have one shot at gaining interest right now, and so now that it's released, I'm just kind of letting the fans of horror decide whether or not it's a good movie or not, and whatever they decide. So I hope people take a chance on it and watch it, and hopefully they enjoy it. But yeah, it's super important.
Yeah. And what kind of specials will be on the DVD and Blu-ray release?
Yeah, so I'm not exactly sure what's going to be included, but we do have quite a bit of stuff that I think people would enjoy. Some, commentary type stuff, behind the scenes, that I think people will really, really enjoy. So we'll see. It's not been quite established yet. So. Yeah.
I'm always a fan of commentary tracks. So I'd be looking forward to that.
I think for like horror fans, for people that love commentary, I think it's a good way for people to relate to the filmmakers and kind of feel like they were a part of it too, or at least kind of understand some of the creative choices that they made. Maybe I didn't like something in this movie, but then I watched the commentary and they say, that wasn't our intent, but due to these limitations, this is what we ended up with.
Yeah. And what's the best way for people to follow Bone Jangles online?
Yeah, so definitely the way to go right now is to follow the official Bone Jangles Facebook page. We don't have like an official Bone Jangles Twitter account or anything like that. We've been posting through Facebook, and then obviously my Facebook account, I've been trying to post as much stuff as I can, Bone Jangles related as well.
What's your personal Facebook account if people want to, if you don't mind, if people follow you?
Yeah, I don't even know what it is exactly. I think it's like facebook.com/Brett Dejager 9 or something like that. So. Yeah, if people want to add me on Facebook, go for it. I'm kind of an open book as far as if people want to chat about the movie or ask me questions. I'm more than willing to take time and answer any questions.
Yeah. And I know it's kind of an open question, but what are some of your favorite horror movies that get you into the genre?
Yeah, so obviously House 2, those are some of my huge favorite movies, or big favorite movies. I love, the original Scream. I'm a huge Scream fan, which, Wes Craven, fantastic. The original, Halloween, 1978, the whole franchise I love. Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, The Thing. I've been really on the Thing kick lately, after, their reunion. So Phantasm, just trying to think. Fright Night is a huge influence on me. Tom Holland's Fright Night, that was fantastic. Child's Play. So I'm kind of like your traditional like horror fan. Like I love all of the classics.
Yeah.
The Blob.
The thing I was like about, I like Fright Night the whole movie, but I think it's kind of, I think people kind of say Scream's the first horror movie that's like self-referential, but I think it was really Fright Night because it's got all the rules about vampire movies, and it's it's set up that they know about vampire movies vampires through the vampire movies.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good observation. I never thought of it that way, but now that you said it, it's definitely true.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Well, I appreciate you coming on. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you so much. I've been looking forward to it all week. I appreciate you taking your time and inviting me on the show.
Yeah, excellent. And I'm sorry there was some technical problems, but it's all worked out now.
Yeah, it all worked out, and hopefully the audience, there was people listening, and will check out Bone Jangles. I think people will like it.
I think they will too. I recommend it. And then
well, there you go, people.
Yeah. Right, and I'd love to have you back sometime.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
All
Anytime.
Right. Excellent. All right, we will be right back.
Hi, this is Kane Hodder, Victor Crowley, Jason from Friday the 13th. You're listening to WithoutYourHead.com.